Poison in Dungeons & Dragons has a strange identity. A creature can be poisoned, a condition that imposes disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks, or they can take poison damage, one of the most common types of damage for monsters to be immune to. Additionally, many types of poison have unique effects like causing the victim to fall asleep or making them incapable of lying. These traits feel disconnected, like they are three very different systems. We're going to try and reinvent poison in a way that makes it feel more like the target has poison corrupting its blood, and effects that feel impactful while still allowing for counterplay. When creating a new system for Dungeons and Dragons, or any game for that matter, it's important that we set goals and guidelines. First, it needs to feel unique. The poison we end up with cannot be reskinned spellcasting. It needs counterplay. Players need to have the tools to counter the things that are thrown at them. Bonus points of existing tools are effective, as players should already know how to use them. It should fix the problems with the existing design. The simpler the fix, the better. It should be exciting. Players don't want to use it, then you've wasted your time. Also, our design should have the following elements. Cool effects. It can't just be damage or a boring status effect. Meaningful choice. Choosing to use poison should be an investment with a real payoff. Verisimilitude. The mechanics should match the fantasy. Cohesion. It should be obvious when you see it that it belongs to the new system. And intuitive. If a player's first interaction with the system is a poison's description, they should be able to intuit how to play with it. So here's the system I've come up with. Poison no longer deals damage. Instead, we're going to steal a few other mechanics from WotC that work fantastically for our purpose. The playtest for the next update to Dungeons & Dragons, they've released a new version of Exhaustion that stacks up to 10 times and imposes a -1 penalty per stack to all attack rolls, saving throws, ability checks, and the DC for all saving throws you force other creatures to make. And since a creature being sluggish, clumsy, and disoriented is functionally the same, regardless of if it's poison or exhaustion that's causing it, we can use it for our system. Let's call these toxin levels and have it stack with exhaustion if we choose to use the playtest rules as well. In Magic the Gathering, there was a poison mechanic called Infect, later Toxin, where instead of dealing damage, a creature causes your opponent to gain poison counters. The player loses the game once they have 10. 10's a good number. It lets us have a good control over the pacing of the mechanic, and removing poison as a damage type helps make it feel unique among other player options. Starting with the stacking poison system, we now need to make sure that the rest of the game can easily be changed to fit into it. The biggest change is the removal of poison damage, but it is also the easiest to fix. Each time a creature would take poison damage, it now instead gains 1 level of toxin. This may seem like a nerf, but we should keep in mind that this change can quickly cause a death spiral, where each time a creature takes damage, healing damage becomes harder, and taking future damage is more likely. Next, we need a new version of the poison condition. It's going to look something like this. Poisoned. A creature can have multiple instances of the poison condition, but only one instance for each unique type of poison afflicting it. For each poison affecting a creature, that creature makes a saving throw at the end of each of its turns against the save DC of each unique poison affecting it. On a failed save, it gains 1 level of toxin, and on a successful one, that poisoned condition ends. Creatures subtract their level of toxin from all ability checks, attack rolls, saving throws, and save DCs. A creature dies if their level of toxin reaches 10 or more. A creature loses 1 level of toxin at the end of each long rest. The poisoned condition is going to be how we track poisons currently affecting a creature, and how counterplay will be implemented to the system later on. It also allows the system to scale across the entire game without needing to tie it to proficiency, challenge rating, or level. Aside from a few spell rewrites, the last existing part of the game that we need to adjust is how resistances and immunity factor into our new system. Creatures with resistance to poison damage now have advantage to saving throws against poison and can have up to 15 levels of toxin before dying. Creatures with immunity to poison damage or the poisoned condition cannot gain levels of toxin and are immune to the effects of poisons. Before we start making new poisons, I want to focus on counterplay. Antitoxin, as presented in the player's handbook, works great with the new system. No changes needed. Players who choose to be proficient with a medicine skill should be rewarded. Let's allow them to expend a use of a healer's kit to do one of two things. They can make a medicine check against a poison's save DC to end its poisoned condition, or remove 1d4 levels of toxin during a short rest. The greater and lesser restoration spells work just fine with minor tweaks, with greater restoration removing all toxin levels, lesser restoration removing all instances of the poisoned condition, and the Paladin's Lay on Hands ability can trade 5 points of healing to either remove 1 poisoned condition or 1 level of toxin. Let's take a look at a poison under the new system. Snake venom. Common poison, max toxin 15, injury. This poison lasts for 1 minute when applied to a weapon or 10 pieces of ammunition. A creature subjected to this poison must make a DC 13 Constitution saving throw. On a failed saving throw, they become poisoned. Each time a creature fails this saving throw by 5 or more, it gains 1 additional level of toxin. This very basic poison introduces several concepts. Poisons will not grant levels of toxin beyond a certain amount. This allows us to have effects like unconscious and paralyzed without outright killing our target. Poison now has a rarity, so we can cost scale it with the rest of the loot in the game, similar to how spell scrolls and potions work. And we've kept the delivery methods from the previous system. Those are great, no need to change them. Here's a poison with a status effect. Torpor. Poison. Uncommon. Max toxin 1. Ingested. A creature subjected to this poison must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, or become poisoned. When a creature affected by this poison has 1 level of toxin, they become incapacitated for 4d6 hours. In the new system, this poison works as follows. A creature somehow ingests this poison and is then subjected to a saving throw. If they fail that, then they make a second save at the end of their turn for the poison condition. If that fails, they gain 1 level of toxin and immediately become incapacitated. If, for whatever reason, that creature already had a level of toxin when they failed the first saving throw, they would immediately become incapacitated. Something we should clarify here is that removing the poison condition does not end a poison's effect, only the accumulation of additional toxin levels. If a creature's toxin level falls below the max toxin of a poison's effect, that effect ends. The creature is only cured of a poison once they no longer have the poison condition from that poison, and its toxin level is below that poison's max toxin. I've come up with a few tables for building your own poisons, and I have them on screen now. As a general rule, poisons with more difficult delivery methods should have a lower toxin cap for their effects, as the challenge comes from inflicting the poison rather than forcing failed saving throws. Poisons with powerful status effects like Petrify and Paralyzed should have higher toxin caps to account for the strength of these effects. The save DC for a poison is another lever you have to balance its strength. A DC 4 poison that petrifies is much weaker than a DC 20 poison that only stacks toxin levels. Also, try to avoid stacking multiple levels of toxin at once. The verisimilitude of the system lies in the slow buildup of stacks, not burst damage. Giving poisons rarity makes them affordable for players, more akin to a potion or scrolls. Removing it as a damage type makes it function more like it does in fantasy media. Few heroes become poisoned and just walk it off like it was a bruise. And changing the poisoned condition to a stacking debuff makes it closer to a deadly narrative device rather than a combat mechanic that is easily negated. I've included a document in the video description with everything covered here if you want to use this in your own games. I have many more things that I have homebrewed, including a comprehensive book containing my campaign setting available for free in my Discord, and I stream 5 days a week on Twitch. Links also in the description. Stop by and say hi. Thanks for watching.